was in March 2007 when my son Crispin and I decided to go all the way to Canada for an art show. It was a retrospective of Canadian cartoonist Ran Holmes' whole career, being held in the community hall of the remote island where he spent the last 20 years of his life. He died in 2002, and I wanted to write his biography, so I knew this would be a good opportunity. To get there, we had to drive up through Washington and then cross the Canadian border, take a big ferry out to Vancouver Island, then drive up to Parksville where we could catch a little foot ferry out to Lasqueti Island. So being invited to this event is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Meanwhile, on Lasqueti Island, Ran's widow Martha and her friend Kathy Schultz, along with a crew of volunteers, were busily transforming the big hall into a gallery space. This community hall is the social center of Lasqueti, and they expected a big turnout for this show. We caught the early morning ferry from French Creek and headed out across the Georgia Strait. The Lasqueti dock was in False Bay, so named because it didn't really offer much protection from storms. This public ferry was the only link to the mainland for most of the islanders, a close-knit community of carpenters, artists, and counterculture expatriates. When we got to the hall, paintings were being unwrapped one by one and hung. Stacks of comic pages were sealed in plastic sleeves, and the newly erected easels and divider walls soon began to fill with art. Select reproductions, t-shirts, note cards, and even full-size canvas prints were specially produced for this event.
Buy these now because you will kick yourself later if you don't get this now.
I was just quoting Pedro on how you work like a madman.
Telling Pedro that?
No, I was just remembering how Pedro once said that if your dad, he works like a madman.
Really?
And here you are working like a madman.
It's not working so hard.
And they were saying that you seem so young. So like a young guy. It's like a young guy.
Who said that?
Those guys, about you.
Well, you don't wait till things happen, you start shooting.
Right.
As soon as you get there. Lasqueti Island was a hippie hideaway 10 years before Rand and Martha moved there in 1980. Naturally, many islanders were excited when they heard that the infamous creator of Hedd would be a new neighbor.
Lasqueti is a real counterculture island that they loved and adored. They took Rand as their very own. You know, he was their guy because, Hedd lives on Lasqueti.
We all knew who Rand was because we were all hippies from the 70s, and Hedd was part of our staple diet. And so it was exciting to know somebody who we thought was, a skillful and a great representative of our kind of alternative culture coming here.
I remember people mentioning Rand Holmes has moved to the island, and I wasn't really familiar with Rand's name. Then someone said, he's the guy that did Hedd. So I mentioned it to a brother in town, and he was astonished that I didn't know who it was.
Actually holding the original art for Wings Over Tijuana was a real treat for aficionado Gareth Godden.
This is my favorite of his stories. It starts off with just big splash pages, and he's getting through just slowly, just beautifully building out the story. But 3/4 of the way through it, you can tell he's running out of pages, and the panel count just increases. But the labor is all still there.
Holmes often used a mirror and his own face to get the right expression for his characters. He became his own best model over time and consequently produced a series of revealing self-portraits.
Maybe these are both how he saw himself.
Excellent.
The male and the female side of him.
Even the portable bar they set up on the front porch, named in honor of an island alcoholic,
put her down, man. It's got wheels.
had a Ran Holmes connection to it.
Harold's stock in trade was drinking. He liked to be, he was just a dyed-in-the-wool alcoholic. And he burned himself up in a trailer fire. And when we sold the last of the scrap, it was enough money to build a bar. So we kind of thought that Harold should have a bar. So I got Rand to, I've got a couple of pictures of Harold, and that's what Rand drew up.
Holmes taught himself to play the banjo when he was a teenager and continued making music most of his life. Jay Rainey cleaned up his favorite instrument and brought it out to play in his honor.
And I've taken it all apart and polished it, and I haven't been able to let it out of my sight since because it just sounds so nice. Yeah, it's got, wow. And I felt like I was polishing Rand. I call it the Ranjo.
Technically, this painting has a lot of an old master's technique to it. It took very meticulous steps towards getting the image completed, and that included everything: light sketches, life drawing, pencil roughs, tonal undercoating, which with oil paints can take a long time to dry, and in this environment as well, which is a damper environment. So it takes. But he'd have like several of them going at the same time, so he was in various stages. I think he was proud of his work though. I think he liked the direction he was going in. He was happy with it, quite happy.
Oh, you got it! Oh, you're kidding! We were just talking about this stuff. Oh, Michelle, that's so great. When Rand did this whole, there's an Attic Theater was the name of this little theater company here. And so Rand did all these amazing sets. So he'd go up and he'd do these incredible paintings for sets.
By nightfall, the hall really did look like an art gallery. It got quieter as the spotlights became the only illumination, and we all felt the impact of being surrounded by hundreds of Rand Holmes originals. His presence, a seriousness of purpose, hung over the accumulated evidence of a lifetime of hard work. Original pages of Harold Hedd comics, whole stories, covers for underground newspapers and comic books, oil paintings, pastels, crayons, pencil drawings. It was very moving to see his life's work on display for the first time. The next morning, our host fed his livestock before we left for the hall. Homesteading is tough work, but that's the Lasqueti way. There was a chance of rain, but all in all, the day's forecast looked promising. And it was St. Patrick's Day.
Are these just pets, or they serve some kind of purpose?
The only purpose they serve is to make a lot of shit.
I was looking forward to seeing people reacting to his work. I wondered if any of his old friends from the underground would show up. Surratt and some of his friends slept overnight in the hall to watch over the artwork. How'd last night go?
I went pretty good.
What'd you do?
Well, I slept most of the time.
But you were here in the hall, huh?
Yeah, I just slept right here on the nice warm bricks.
Oh, really?
Worked out very well for me.
So any interlopers come by in the night trying to steal the work?
Nope, not yet.
That's good. The opening was just a few hours away. Food preparation was at the top of the agenda. Several hundred people would probably show up for lunch and dinner.
What sort of fish?
This fish, I figured 5 sheep wouldn't be enough. Well, I didn't know we were going to get 5 sheep.
Yo.
Are you filming people coming in?
Yep, the arrival.
This is my first trip. I'm coming now. I'm checking everything out. I'm making sure I get what I want. Then I'm going to go away and come back with my potluck and be prepared for a night of partying.
Just wake me when it's over.
The day has arrived. I can't believe it. I'm so excited, and I cannot believe that people actually came over on the ferry today. And nobody got, well, a couple of people got sick, but anyway, it's great. I'm so happy. I'm thrilled. I'm actually relaxed. I can't believe it.
I can see that. You're very definitely.
Yeah, I'm totally, well, there's nothing you can do now, right? It is what it is. Although this morning there was going through a few more pieces of artwork, and they went, oh, these have to go in, the boys, Ron and Gareth, so they put a few up on the wall there. Some covers.
People were here at 11.
Well, that's great. That's unusual for Lasqueti.
Not a lot of people.
I found out about the show when I was browsing a weblog called boingboing.net, and it's like, Rand Holmes Art Show. Oh, really? On Lasqueti Island? Wait a minute, I live like right next to there. I have to go. People arrived steadily all afternoon. There were hundreds of pieces to view. Even I hadn't seen it all, and I'd been studying his work since the early 1970s. The Rand Holmes I knew back then was the quintessential revolutionary cartoonist, the star artist at Vancouver's Georgia Straight newspaper. They gave him full rein to skewer the powerful and mock the establishment. He also had a real talent for humorous pornography, which might sound contradictory, but he somehow managed to pull it off. He always wanted to be a serious painter, and I was glad to see that he had achieved that goal before he died.
Yeah. This is just one of my favorite pieces because it's a party in the park and it just looks like an amazing time and it's a great atmosphere. It's just a great drawing. But I know that's me. I know that's you. And that looks like him or Harold Hedd. This is kind of what our dad looked like, and he's got telltale signs like that. That man purse there, that Merce.
Local entrepreneurs like Wildwood Products and Energy Alternatives commissioned him for illustration work.
So we asked Rand to be our illustrator and do cartoons for us. And all of those cartoons, they had like a sentence of instruction on them. It's our 5th anniversary. And comes back this thing where there's ducks quacking and beavers making a mess, and just a hilarious cartoon. It was really fun to work with him.
Even the small gold and silver mint on the island found a use for his talents.
For years, on each of our coins, we sort of snuck in a little acknowledgement to the local herbaceous industry.
Okay.
For instance, on our 2000 coin, if you look at the tip of the dragon's tail there, it's a marijuana bud.
Oh, yeah, so it is.
Right. If you look at our 98 coin, if you look on either side of the date there, there's a little marijuana leaf. And eventually I said, why don't we come out of the closet on this one? All right?
All right.
And just do a marijuana coin. I mean, what the hell? Ray said, okay, well, fine, but it has to be classy. I said, I know just the guy to do the art. So I went to Randy and I said, would you be interested in doing a wreath of marijuana buds that's going to go on the back of our 10th ounce gold coin? So he drew up that design, had it engraved on the 10th ounce die. And the day after we got the dies back, Alan Rock announced that Canada was going to legalize marijuana for medicinal use. So we had this coin out in the next week as a commemorating the legalization of medicinal marijuana in Canada, and it's been a very popular coin, very popular, and this coin circulates on the island.
When you think of what he did moving here, building a little house right away and then working on a larger home, doing his artwork, building a shack for hunting, and then he built his own rifles, and he did an incredible amount.
So he had to spend an enormous amount of time by himself in order to produce what he did, because that's only where those seeds, those original thoughts will germinate from. And that's what he really believed in.
For one thing, I really like the fact that all these works are together in one place. and that it has an impact that it doesn't have in just looking at an individual comic or panel or even an individual painting. It's a really nice touch.
It's just beautiful. I just love the little corner of the studio that's been set up, and that really sad and poignant half-finished painting sitting there. Just wow. I feel like I've been invited into his family into a show like this. It's like this closed world is being opened just a little bit, and this amazing collection of things are together, maybe for the last time. And it's just an important moment in time, not only for his work and life, but also for the Lasqueti community. It's wonderful. It's very touching. It's beautiful. I'm really glad I came. It's awesome.
Sir, you just came out of the peep show. Are you aroused?
Not really, no.
Really?
Yes,
Go
really.
back in again.
Go back?
Check it out again.
No.
Maybe you didn't take a flashlight.
This is definitely XXX rated.
I can't believe what I'm seeing in here.
And you knew him all those years.
Yeah, and I still can't believe it. I've honestly spent way over an hour and a half reading every one and looking at the detail, and I think people are really impressed with this show. Like, nobody had any idea. But then this show would never have happened if he'd stayed alive, probably.
You're probably right.
So it's kind of funny, ironic in that way.
Crispin and I arrived at the hall early on Sunday morning. Ron and Gareth spent a sleepless night with the artwork.
We went around last night with flashlights and counted the penises in all of the art shown here tonight. And we came up with 66 separate penises. This one here has like 15 alone.
Good morning.
2 months after.
Wasn't that a good time?
Yeah. I'm going to take you on a tour.
Okay.
Personal tour, and then we will meet up at the 1 o'clock ferry when say goodbye to these guys, and then you can be with Martha.
All right. Lasqueti is only about 100 square kilometers, so it didn't take that long. Kathy showed us the feral sheep that roam at will. We ended up at the Lasqueti Art Center, which Rand helped design and build. His ashes were buried around to the side. A tree planted on top of him had dried up, but a cluster of daffodils added a bit of cheer to the otherwise unmarked gravesite. According to Kathy, the funeral party that gathered there in March 2002 came up with a spontaneous ritual that Rand might have enjoyed.
Everyone did the same thing. They would step back and they would grab the first person that was standing there and put their arm around them. Rand's ashes went from the hand to everybody's shoulder. So every time you looked at somebody's back, they had Rand's ashes on their back. And then we had a smorgasbord of food around the side. No water here to wash your hands. So we're all digging into the food. So we were like patting Rand on us and eating Rand. And so there's a little bit of Rand in every one of us that was here.
Next, we went to see Martha. This was my second visit to their homestead. With the stress of the art show over, today was a perfect time to talk to her about what she intended to do with his legacy. We're going to stay here for a while.
Okay.
No more driving over bumpy roads.
Rand Holmes' home.
Let's take everything out.
Rand Holmes' home.
I cried every day for 3 years. Weeping, breaking down, crying, because I just adored Rand so much. Because I think he's a genius. I thought he was a genius, you know. He was complicated, very, very complicated, but there was that in him, like not everybody has that ability when you're born to just, with no training, go where he did. To have the insight to make people laugh, to all of that. But the thought of Rand's stuff was so overwhelming to me. I just, like the volume of stuff. And what do you do with it? But my dear friend, Kathy Schultz, had said to Rand before he died like a long time ago. I'll be your agent, I'll help you, I'll get your work out into the world. You just give it to me, Rand, and I'll do it. And she would have, you know. So one time we were hanging out and she just said, you know, we really need to do something. And I said, well, there's only one person that I would trust, and it was Patrick Rosenkranz, you. So I said, okay, well, I know that Rand had had correspondence with Patrick just before he died, and that Rand really felt good about it, about him, so you. So I said, well, we could have Patrick come up. And of course, Kathy's like, oh yeah, let's go for it. Oh, this is great. And I'm saying, okay, but I cannot be here alone. I have to have this huge amount of people around me so I could have the courage to do what I knew needed to be done. But I couldn't do it alone. I knew Rand trusted you. I trusted you because Rand trusted you. You coming up here made it go, okay, I did that. I survived it. But I didn't also feel that there was any rush. It's all for whatever reason it is. Rand died for whatever reason. Well, here I met Gordon, and he's a photographer that's able to help with artwork. I mean, like, hello, it doesn't get any, like, whoa, thanks, Rand. You know?
Wherever you are.
Yeah, wherever you are. I think it's here.
Oh, well, how interesting.
The only reason I think is because they snore the same. And the new Rand wants to say she's very happy that you all came up to the island. This is what we'd all want to be doing, a dog's life. Okay. So you want to just come up and
Sure.
You can bring it down, or you can do whatever.
Well, let's just take a look and see what we got. I remember a little bit, but it was 2 years ago. Oh, look at those. Look at all this writing.
No, I know, he's prolific. He didn't
Wait.
talk to people much, but he did a lot of writing.
Have you thought of the consequences of learning drawing for fun and profit?
Isn't that great?
Oh yeah, this is a nice one. This is from that classic nude garden,
Yeah.
that last painting.
Yeah.
These are fascinating. Dang. Look, there's the Jesus with a Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
Some woman with a jug on her head. They're so allegorical. There's a woman who's a tree.
See, like there's all, I mean, this is, so these are sketchbooks. Like,
Oh, really?
these-
Those are all sketchbooks?
Yeah.
God, what a treasure trove. The next morning, Crispin and I met the early ferry and booked on out. It was a beautiful place, but little islands make my feet itch. I just wanted to hop in the car and drive. I headed home to Oregon, but first, I made a stop in Seattle to see my publisher and to make the shortest book pitch in my life. So how's my favorite underground publisher?
Hey, how are you?
Good, Gary.
Good, just on the way out.
My son Crispin.
What's up, Gary?
Hey, how are you?
We just been on a wild adventure to Lasqueti Island. So now that that's out of the way, I'm ready to pitch another book to you.
All right, been waiting.
Okay.
All right.
Rand Holmes.
Rand Holmes, okay. We can probably do that.
I've got his sketchbooks, his private journals, his correspondence, all the artist camera ready.
You not only have them, but you have them in your pocket.
Yes.
Major Harold Hedd days.
Yep.
Okay.
I really think you should do it. I think his star is
Sounds
ascending.
like, yeah, sounds good. Okay, I'm up for it.
All right.